Thank you very much for coming. Please, you're seated.
Telling you who he really is. Mr. Ramsey Nouah is a renowned Nigerian actor and director and the proprietor of Ramsey Films. With over 30 years in filmmaking, he has established, yes, 30 years. He has established himself as one of Nollywood's most celebrated talents. Let's clap for him. That's amazing. He gained prominence in the 1990s through the TV series Fortunes and has since starred in numerous iconic films, including The Figure Eight, 30 Days in Atlanta, Living in Bondage, Breaking Free, and Rattlesnake, The Ahana Story. His contributions to Nollywood extend beyond acting as he has successfully transitioned into directing and producing with a focus on telling authentic African stories. Before we get into speaking to Mr. Ramsey Nouah, there's been an issue of contention that we are going to look at, and he's going to give us some insight on that. And so I'll give us some background because right now we are getting into the topic of decolonizing African cinema and reclaiming our stories and identity. So having had that amount of experience of over 30 years, he can tell us what it means for us to have authentic African stories. And so we have a scenario to give us the preamble to that discussion. And the scenario is, the topic is inspired by The Children of Blood and Bone, a novel by Nigerian-American author Tomi Adeyemi. This novel is being adapted into a film, and there's been a lot of contention because in 2024 an open casting call was put out and many Nigerian actors were encouraged to audition, and they did. However, Amandla Stanback, a biracial, light-skinned actress, was chosen to portray the role of Princess Amari, a character which is described in the novel as a dark brown copper complexion. But the person who was cast was biracial and light-skinned. Critics argued that this choice overlooked the novel's themes. Very many people were upset, and it's important that we understand this so that we can get a clear background of where we're going with this. Fans were greatly disappointed and started to question the purpose of the open call because it seemed like an open casting call didn't matter anyway, if they were going to choose people who were contrary to what the book had actually described. Author Tomi Adeyemi addressed this backlash and emphasized that efforts to include Nigerian actors were being made and more Nigerian casting announcements were going to come up. Despite this, the initial casting choices continued to fuel discussions about representation and authenticity. So this controversy, highlights to broader issues within the film industry regarding the importance of accurate cultural representation and the need for inclusivity in storytelling. And we're going to have Mr. Ramsey Nouah just give us some more, information and insights into this issue. As an all-round award-winning filmmaker, is this unique to you? Is such an issue something that you have experienced in the industries at some point in the past 30 years? Accurate representation.
Now, I want to get something straight so that we don't get very political in this line of conversation there. So there are determining factors that will determine why producers will decide to want to use a biracial for a project of that magnitude. It's understandably okay, so I don't want to get traditional or get involved in any ways where it seems as if we're racially discriminating against creative works. It all depends on what the director decides that, oh, I like this person seems to give me the best performance, out of many that I've come across. You know what I'm saying? And so it's pretty hard. Now, yes, we really would desire our own representation. I know that for certain. We would desire, but here, look at me. I'm biracial in Nollywood, but I am successful there in Nollywood. So there was no need to say, because I am mixed blood, so automatically I'm not Nigerian, and because of that, I can't be an actor here in Nollywood. It was open, given open arm for it to happen. So for me, It all depends. Now, where I will have a bit of concern is where dialects is not well, done. The nuances of the culture that they're talking about in the story is not properly in place, then of course that becomes an issue. As far as skin tone is concerned, if the person can play the culture and whatever, biracial or whatever, is fine by me. It's determined by the creative directors, I think. That's my take on
Okay,
it.
doesn't that negate the work of the writer, the original writer? Because then that brings into play the conflict between the director's choices and the writer. Have you faced that at any point, having to deal with what the writer would want and the director?
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever read the book of James Bond, 007? Do you know the exact look of 007, the way the writer wrote it?
No.
And then we have how many 007 actors? We have over 7 of them. And they don't look the part, they don't look all the same part. You get what I'm saying? The way the writer puts the thing together does not necessarily mean that the creative world would, depict exactly, to the exact tone. Not necessarily, no. It doesn't count like that. Now, if the writer, of course, wants that to be the main thing, then the writer should be in the production, in creating all of that, and be part of the creators and say, oh, I prefer, or I like this person befits the look of what I've created and stuff like that. Yeah, the writer should be part of that.
How does that speak to us as Ugandans who are trying to create authentic Ugandan stories? Because Nigeria has been known, especially Nollywood, to be very successful because you tell your stories as Nigerians. You're not pretending or trying to be Americans or anything like that. And in Uganda right now, the struggle we are having in some of our filmmaking processes is we're trying to make action movies, we're trying to make these things where we're jumping off buildings and doing all sorts of things which do not seem reality or realistic with our actual Ugandan culture. So how would you speak to that?
Okay, so that's a market determining factor. I noticed that the Ugandans love the action movies. I remember when I first came to Uganda, everybody that kept shaking me and giving me a hug, the first question is, hey, my guardian angel. Hey, my guardian angel. Everybody talks about my guardian angel with me, which was one of my only action films in Nollywood. But that's the film that has successfully crossed the borders throughout the East Coast. So I noticed that the East Coast likes action sequence. Now, whatever it takes, if you want to target that market, you have to find a way to give the people what they want. Do you understand it? So now, here's the thing. There are different ways to look at it. There are different ways. You could do your action sequence without it having like a backdrop of too much Hollywood or too much Chinese. You can cultivate your own style or how you do your thing and still make it very entertaining that the people will love it. That's the way you make it natural. How you make it yours, right?
Yes.
How you can make it mine.
Yes.
In other words, I'm speaking my dialects, I'm fighting like my local fight to be here, and it has an appeal to my audience. Importantly, yes. Importantly, that's what I think the writers and the filmmakers need to put into cognizance when they're working on things of that nature.
So does that mean that the authentic African story has to be juxtaposed against what the people want?
And that's a tricky question. So we come from the background of where filmmakers will say, do it the way you feel it. That is my background, in all fairness and all truth. But you see, this age and time has gone beyond that. Now the market determines the story, the kind of story you want to tell.
Yes.
Back in the days when filmmakers, they do film, they just do it how they feel it. I can daydream things and put it in visuals and try and let people enjoy it with me.
Yes.
But it's my daydream, it's my field. So I can do it the way I want. And back in the days, it used to be a good, successful story. It used to be a success story. But now, the market has changed.
Yes.
Now, back then, people were a bit more settled. I'm talking about the people like you now, for instance. Back in those days, youths didn't care much because there was good provision for them. Economically, things were okay. Financially, things were fine. So it was just a basic thing of being a youth, playing sports around your neighborhood, going to study in school, come back home to your parents. Parents' father is providing for all of that to happen. And there was union. And then we could just dream dreams and create things, and people will be glad to watch and be part of it. Now the economy is not the same. Now everybody is struggling to even feed, not to talk of surviving. The mind is in different places all at the same time. So you can't just create a dream and bring it to me, a hungry man, and tell me, oh, this is my dream. I'll throw it out the window. So a lot of people do not have the same attention span and the way things are at the time compared to now. So right now, people are in a mood where you either give me, for instance, the Ugandans, they would like an action sequence. Either give me a Jackie Chan film, a 007 film, or any action sequence. Give me comedy. If you start to tell me stories that I feel I don't want to relate to, it's probably out the window. That's why all of a sudden, if you make stories that don't resonate with the people, it stays in the shelf.
Yes.
It doesn't go far. Because there are very few numbers who will celebrate it with you. But you want to have numbers to celebrate that with you, you give the people what they would like to see. That's where the problem is.
So does that mean that the African authentic story is not so much about it being steeped in African culture, but more about expressing who one truly is, for example, as a filmmaker, because the room is full of filmmakers. So if it is my true imagination, my true dream, is that the authentic African story, or does culture play a big role in that as well?
Culture plays a big role in whatever you do. Your background, plays a big role in whatever you do. Now, I'm not saying this is out the window, but it's going to be extremely weird that as a Ugandan, you're dreaming or trying to make a movie for Chinese people. It will feel off somehow. It will just feel like it's almost like saying you're singing off key. It will just seem go off. As a matter of fact, it's going to be hard for me to say, I want to tell a Chinese story, and I'm coming to look for a Ugandan director or filmmaker to come and tell the Chinese story. It just seems off. So yes, you must have, your background is what actually helps you tell your story. Your background is what resonates. You can't go and tell other people's story. You tell your story, which is, of course, infused in your culture, your tradition, your nuances, your dialects, everything is all parts of it. That way you can tell the world, I want to hear your story. I want to hear the story of Australians, I want to hear the stories of Jamaicans and all of those things. They want to hear your story. What are the stories of Ugandans? You can't be a Ugandan and you go to tell Jamaican story. Like, where's the connection? Except you grew up there too.
The problem we have with the young people today is that we do not know too much about our own culture, because we are in the global village with social media and all that, and I think that is why many young people are telling the kind of stories they are telling, and that is why the question is rising up, that is this a true, authentic African story? But then you may find for that young person that is their authentic story. So is that something you can speak to the filmmakers here?
Yes, and I'll give you instances. For instance, in the Nigerian music industry, Hollywood or the American music industry was a huge influence on what they do. That's for a fact. I can tell you that for free. It took us several years for us to be able to sing strongly into our tune and dialects. And I'm not talking about the local singers from our local places already, who traditionally just do our singing in our dialects and our languages. But you see, this upcoming new generation is an infusion of so many things, right? Like, beats are infused from either from South Africa, America, India. They'll fuse a lot of beats to create their own song and their own style, and they do it in their dialects. As a filmmaker, there is no harm in saying that your influence is by, Hollywood. There's no harm in it. Even Nollywood was influenced by Hollywood. But we have to find our background. We have to find how we're able to talk about our story and how we tell our stories the best. So my own to you is, how can you get what influenced you? Maybe Hollywood, maybe K-drama, maybe Indian, China's, whichever one it is. How can you, as a filmmaker, put that together and make it a Ugandan film without it seeming as if you just replicated a Chinese film? So that's the important thing. It's a thin line. You just have to find it. It's a thin line. You just have to find it.
That's amazing. And as we wind up this amazing conversation we're having, I'll allow for 2 questions from the audience. Anyone with a question, please stand up quickly, and we will get to you. You have an opportunity to ask.
Is there a mic for them?
We can share. Anyone with a question?
Sorry.
Before we wind this up? Okay, please.
Is there someone who can help us
You
with
can
the
come and use
microphone?
mine. Come and use my mic.
What if it is a suggestion? Once again, how are you? This topic is so sensitive, decolonizing our cinema from maybe the whites. You've talked about Mr. Ramsey, you've talked about James Bond. There was a time when they were looking for a new James Bond. Idris Elba was amongst those in the list.
Yeah.
And these people, they say the whites, they say Idris Elba is black.
Yeah.
And according to the original story, these characters, they have something in common. They are all from England, I don't know, from Europe. Now, they gave their reason. They say maybe, let's assume they've written a script, Idris Elba is in Scotland, and he's the only black guy, he's an agent. Oh, he will be blown. And we understood it as black people. These people, they have been acting Jesus, the character of Jesus. And the originality, sorry to say, the guy is somehow black. But for them, they have colonized the character of Jesus. Because I've talked about Jesus. Okay, is everyone hearing me?
Yeah.
They have been acting Jesus, a black character. They have colonized our character. But I don't know if you're familiar with Black Panther. We, the Uganda, we had a king, exactly the same story. It was called Daudi Chwa. I think you understand that king with a black animal. These people, they documented during the colonization time, they documented that thing, they took it to England. I don't know how it ended to Marvel, but they're doing this film. What I can suggest, maybe we should document our stories or register them. Maybe we cannot be colonized if we are documented. Because sometimes I see movies on screen and I'll be like, not because the character is that good, but maybe the way they cast. They cast their people to do our African characters. Also in India, instead of using the real stars, maybe like Shah Rukh Khan to act in Slumdog Millionaire, they get someone mediocre, then they put their character to promote the what? Their industry, that the American actors are better than the rest. Vietnam came out and complained to the world what the Hollywood guys are doing. They portray Vietnamese like they are the villains. Russians, they are the one blowing up things. Arabs, Allah Akbar, they kill people, they are the terrorists. These people, there's a way they psychologically manipulate our stories, our cinema. We should understand how these streamlines work. Netflix can buy your story, but they can own it. They have a right to do it the way they want. If they can say maybe your king is a homosexual, you've sold the story. They have decolonized your story. Thank you. The microphone was off.
Thank you for that. Please let's
It is suggested that there's a way we can
document our own stories likewise. You know, he mentioned how Black Panther is originally from here, from Uganda, right?
Yeah.
You have something of that nature. Yeah, it's the same thing as Thor is also originally from Lagos, Nigeria, the west of Lagos. We call him Shango, the god of thunder. It's a deity that used to worship back then about West. It's still ours. But now it's all, everybody only knows Thor, nobody knows Shango. So indeed, if we do document these things and we can play it well, yes, we'll probably be able to tell our own stories. But here's what the problem is. The Hollywood people, I don't know if you know this saying when I have in Nigeria. The Hollywood people, they own yam, they all have the knife. Meaning that they can do whatever it is they want with it. So they have it all going for them. They have the money, they can decide to throw it out and get whatever they want. And until we're able to fortify ourselves likewise, we'll just keep, dancing around in circles and hoping to make the best of everything in the end. But anyway, thank you. What's the name again?
Issa.
The English one, Issa. Issa, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Issa. Thank you so much. If anybody that has a loud voice for next question, fine. Otherwise, there's no microphone. Just telling you ahead. Thank you.
Mama G, Ms. Jerry, Mr. Canary, so grateful to have you here. My question, Mr. Ramsey, is we've had Hollywood actors being cast in essential roles to tell African stories, just where we came from. So my question is it because the African actors have not yet been branded as global stars, or would it be something to do with business as it stands as business in film? So, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's more of business to them. Yeah, it's more of business to them. And also it's more of dictating the pace. What's comfortable for them, what they find, what they can deal with, When they look at the terrain and they feel like, oh, they're taking an actor from somewhere, they don't know the background, they don't know whatever, or they don't just want to go through the stress of it all, they'll find their own and just work on it. Business also means that if the actor from Africa or from Nigeria or from Uganda does not have a global recognition only within their sphere, then it's not good enough for their business. Maybe they want an actor with global appeal or something. That could be the reason why they would decide to do that to themselves. So these things are a bit tricky when it comes to how they want to decide this stuff. Of course, sometimes racism also plays a big game in it. I mean, racism plays a game in everything we do, in politics and social life, day to day, everything. We're all, you're unconsciously racist to everything around you. Unconsciously, you're racist to your neighbor if you must, by default. We're racist amongst ourselves. We're racist to the north, we're racist to the south, we're racist to the east, we're racist to the west. It's always there, unconsciously. This subliminal, there, but we call the racial discrimination quite heavy because of black skin and light skin or white skin. It becomes a bit more, like that. But amongst ourselves, we're all racist. I can guarantee you that even your friends there, you're racist to him or her. Yeah, it happens. So these things play a game in all the decisions that we take in life. It's not only in the movie industry, it's in all spheres, social life, every other industry you can think about. It plays a strong game. And which I doubt if that's ever going to happen in this our generation. Until we outlive that racism, unity will be very difficult, will be what I call far-fetched. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Before we conclude, we just have one more question. And I like very much that Issa was actually pointing us in the direction of the conclusive question, and then the power is back. Yay. So, the mics are on already. So just to close this session, how then do we balance global collaborations while preserving African cultural authenticity? I'll say that again. How do we balance global collaborations while preserving our African cultural authenticity?
Issa,
Yes, sir.
I think you can easily answer that question, but I'll give you an example. What's the film you mentioned just now? The Marvel film?
Black Panther.
If we do a lot of Black Panthers, then we could have like maybe some good collaboration between that.
Yeah.
You know, if we do some more things of that nature where you want to tell your story in ways where you can resonate globally, then you could have a lot of collaboration. It is quite heavy, but this from my perspective. A lot of other filmmakers can see from different perspectives. But for me, it's more like I feel once you're able to make your film in a way where it becomes a global, you can get global audience. Don't forget, always underline the fact that filmmaking is a universal language. Meaning that devoid of whatever it is, language, dialects, color, whatever it is, anybody watching should be able to understand what you are saying through that medium, through the film. It does not matter whether you are speaking Swahili, Yoruba, Igbo, Indian, Pakistani, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. If it's global, they will understand it. And when that starts to happen, then it's easy to have collaboration. First, you must break into the global market, and with that, you can get collaboration. If you don't have a global market and you expect people to come into the market and share with you, it's going to be a tough one.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a better hand clap than that.